Hello and welcome to oh wait, I think we're live. No, we've been live for 7 seconds. Hello and welcome to episode 43 of Third and Wrong. A little special Christmas episode for everyone here. We are live in front of the YouTube camera. As with me as always is Zachary Foth and Austin Dallonga, all based out of Medicine Hat right now. I'm home visiting for the weekend. And we have been watching football for 48 hours straight. We took a little time to go see the new Star Wars.
Boom.
And Seahawks game is currently on right now. So if you see my attention drifting away, nothing personal. We're just, we have a viewer. We're, just making sure we don't blow this, but we're down 2010. Anyways, let's start with yesterday's games. We'll start with your Patriots, Ozzy. Just take us through it. How you feeling after that big W?
Well, that was a hard-fought game against the emerging Buffalo Bills, but we came out on top, and it all came down to the defense at the last few minutes. There, they had a goal line stand and steal the dub. I was happy to see the offense was finally shooting on all cylinders, I guess, or hitting on all cylinders, whatever the expression is.
So good, yeah, we're really happy
right now.
So, I'm really excited actually. That win, I know I couldn't really show it as much as I probably wanted to last night, and I might have shown it a little bit for your distaste, Zach, but I was really excited. And the Patriots moving the ball against a defense like the Bills was fantastic to see. So I'm excited for playoffs once more.
Once more,
Yeah.
Just happy to be back.
I wasn't excited
yeah.
for the first 14 weeks. Now I'm excited again.
I'll say this: Josh Allen looked pretty good. Like he was making some difficult throws. It's just near the end of the fourth quarter. It just seems like the Patriots tightened things up and shut him down.
Not only did he look good, but he looked poised and actually quite relaxed. Going into Gillette Stadium is never an easy task. And when you saw him in the pocket and stuff, he didn't look over anxious or anything. He still has a lot of work to do to beat that team. But yeah, some growth.
Yeah, definitely. Coming into Gillette's never an easy task. But yeah, for a second-year quarterback,
right?
He's exciting to see.
White chocolate.
It's the best a man can get, and
oh, we're allowed to swear? Is that going to make us?
Yeah, we're allowed to swear.
Allowed
we
to
hit
swear,
the age
okay.
restriction
okay.
on this one.
Restricted content. So yeah, and then I guess the one thing that just the Patriots offense is starting to click. And do you think it was against a very good Bills defense, Ozzy? Does that give you hope going into the playoffs, or do you think that maybe that was a one-off and you're gonna have to keep grinding week to week because you don't know what you're gonna expect?
I don't think that it's a one-off because the Bills have shown who they are. It's not like the Bills are an inconsistent team, so they've shown that they're able to go toe-to-toe against some of the better offenses. And so maybe you could chalk it up a little bit to a bad game, but I don't think that we should discredit the Patriots that way because their offense has been brutal. Everybody has talked about how shitty their offense has been.
Well, it has been.
Yeah. And it has. And moving the ball like we did yesterday, even with Julian Edelman out for a couple series, he was banged up. I was very excited to see the potential of what we could be getting.
Man, N'Keal Harry coming out
right?
is turning into a threat, which is just shitty for everyone else because you don't need any more weapons. Please, I hope you guys go into playoffs having less weapons. Nobody wants to see them succeed.
The thing about Harry too is we were using him like a gadget guy. We had him doing end arounds and stuff like that, and he's a big body. I'm not. I didn't see him as being that type of guy for us. So seeing him be successful in that role, and he's hard to tackle. I'm very excited what we got there.
We hate to see it. He loves to see it. Yeah. The Patriots locked into that number 2 seed now after the Ravens got a W today over the Browns. We'll get to that later. The other big game Saturday night was the Rams and 49ers. I didn't get a chance to watch this one, but the Rams playoff hopes coming to a disappointing end after making the Super Bowl last year. They're going to finish at best 9-7 if they beat the Cardinals next week. Let's go from the Rams perspective first, guys. Ozzy, I think you called it. They were missing the playoffs, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't remember what I had them finishing, but I did call for kind of a setback. I had the Niners going 8-8, so I think I had the Rams going second and 10-6 and making the playoffs. Obviously, that won't be the case, but I'm not too confident in their future. They have a lot of bloated contracts, Goff being the biggest one, Gurley being the next biggest one, still really talented, but battling that arthritis in his knee. Russell Wilson's throwing darts right now, so that's great to see. But now they don't have a first-round pick until 2023.
2022.
So the next 2 drafts are going to be first roundless. And Wilson's throwing the ball. Oh, he dropped it. Okay, sorry. Back focused on you, on me, on these guys. But now, where do you go to try to retool this team? You pretty much have to roll with the guys you got. Ramsey, they're going to have to sign to an extension. You know, they'll make some changes. They might make a coaching change. I know some people are calling for Wade Phillips's dismissal. Kind of a disappointing year on defense for them, but I kind of see this Rams team fighting for wild card spots the next couple of years. I don't see them coming out of the gate as like a top contender. Like I think Seattle's going to keep rolling. I think the 49ers are going to have a really bright future. Cardinals are still a few years off, but this Rams team, I'm a little worried about them going forward. Would say you, Zach, go ahead.
I actually, what we're seeing from Arizona these last few weeks coming up, Kyler's coming into his own. I think we could actually see them start to turn the corner a bit, but I couldn't have said it better than like the Rams. Like this needs to be a wake up call for them. They need to go into the offseason, realize that they couldn't just come back into this season and do the exact same thing and try and win the way they did the year prior. The motions and things like all their pre-snap movements and stuff. And they do a lot of like sweep plays and stuff with the wide receiver. But it shows now to McVay, and he's a good, smart guy. He needs to, I love the reactions to the game. Sorry. It's funny. It's good. They need to switch something up. They need to get Todd Gurley healthy, something with him healthy, somewhat healthy. And so they can run with him again and take it off Jared Goff. But I don't think they're going to go away as much as like people think. I think the wild card statement was good. They'll be battling for those, the 5th seed here and there, and like maybe fighting for the division
title.
But I don't think they're going to be as dominant as people think because they made it to the Super Bowl last year. But some of those inflated contracts, I think Jared Goff is the right guy for McVay. And then I also think like Donald's there, and they want to resign. If they resign Ramsey, they have some key pieces there. And if they rebuild, like, you know, football's a big game where you need to bring new talent in and year out. If they draft without the first round pick, obviously, but they get other talent through the draft, young talent, they retool here and there. I think they have the pieces to be good year in and year out.
Yeah.
I do like McVay, but I don't think as big of a talent as they were last year on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I would agree with that for the most part. Like I was trying to think about what they have moving forward and what their holes are. Offensive line being the scary one.
If Whitworth retires moves on.
And they kind of started off crappy this year after losing Roger Saffold and stuff like that. So they drafted really well with the picks that they had this year too. So I was actually quite impressed with that. They've got a good coach, a good GM. I don't think that we're going to see we're not going to see a 12-win team, I don't think, moving forward over the next couple of years. I see them more as kind of a middle of the pack, just because like we're watching the Cardinals game right now and they're taking it to the Seahawks. And even you just said like the Cardinals are a couple of years away, but if they're competing in these games now, they just took it to the Browns last week. They're in a lot of games and their offensive line is a big weakness. But it's kind of playing up. If they can fix those weaknesses with how they're already playing, I think that they're not too far out. They've still got a really good secondary. They've drafted really well there. They've got Chandler Jones on the defensive line, but he's getting up there in age, so you got to make sure you're retooling. And I know this was about the Rams, but just saying, like, you're going to have 4 really good teams in that division.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's going to spell very bad for the teams looking out. I think that the 49ers and the Seahawks are going to continue to be at the top, and then it's going to be kind of a mix, kind of a battle there for the 3rd spot in the years to come. So I think that one's going to be a tough go.
Yeah.
And it's a fall from grace for sure, which sucks for the Rams fans, but
I'd almost, sorry, Steve,
you're
going to hate this, but I don't see the Seahawks being every year in, year out battling for first seed, though.
Not first seed, but
like they'll be good
for
division titles.
Yeah.
Like this, they're not always winning.
This year's kind of an anomaly. Like they don't feel like a first seed team, and watching this Cardinals game, they definitely don't look like one. But through sheer grit and Russell Wilson, they've managed their way to do that, despite being the most injured team in the NFL next to the Washington Redskins. They definitely have a lot of work to do in the offseason. They need more pass rushing help. Like Clowney has been hurt, and Ansah has been an absolute disappointment in his health. And when he's on the field, he's not producing. LJ Collier, our first round pick from this past season, has been absolutely invisible.
No, as predicted.
No idea. Like you couldn't even if you told me he was on the field this entire season, that's news to me. Like if I was a casual fan, he'd be like, "Oh, he's been playing this whole time. I thought he was on the IR."
Yeah.
Like it's been that bad. Mm-hmm. So definitely there. Linebacking core, like KJ Wright's getting up there. We drafted a couple this year, but they haven't really like stepped up. So we could probably use more help there. Pretty much our defense, our secondary too. I'd even say I'd like to add another safety. Diggs was a great pickup. I like Blair's potential, but I just think we could add another strong safety that maybe had a little competition there. I like McDougal too, but
where's McDougal? Is he on IR?
He's still there. It's just I don't know where these guys, they just aren't producing. Is that Hundley? Hundley's about to throw a bomb on us, and he completed it.
Oh, there it is.
And they're on our 50. Back to you. Let's flip to the 49ers perspective from yesterday's game. So now they're sitting at 12-3. Seattle and the San Francisco game next week's been flexed to Sunday night prime time. Regardless if Seattle decides to crap the bed and lose this game, next week's game is still going to be for all the marbles, NFC West title, and potentially the number 2 or number 1 seed, depending on what happens with New Orleans and Green Bay. I am not confident in the Seahawks team to beat the 49ers next week. They looked really good last night. Garoppolo didn't have a great game, but they're running the ball well. They stuck to their formula. Defense played decent, all things considered, with Goff. That offense can be lethal when they're on. Obviously, they had the Cowboys game, but when this offense is on, and they were, the Niners found a way to win a difficult game, and they're definitely a team to be feared in the playoffs. Ozzy, I know you've been keeping close tabs on the Niners all season. What did you think of that game yesterday from their perspective?
Yeah. If I had to say one thing that I'm a little concerned about, like they had Richard Sherman come back last week. They had the excuse of not having him against the Saints when the Saints put up, what did they put up, like 40 or something?
40, I think they lost 45-40 that game.
Yeah.
48-45, I thought.
Was it that high?
I think it was that high.
Something like that. Yeah. So they got a lot put up on them anyways, and so that was concerning. And then Richard Sherman comes back, and then they continue to kind of suck at defense. They are very battle tested at this point because they've battled so many injuries. D Ford, I think, is still out. They've lost a lot of guys on the defensive line. So I'm not so obviously this isn't the same 49ers defense that we've seen over the first 10 weeks or so where they're so dominant. But I think that and I think we talked about it on the podcast last week or something like that, where this offense is really kind of peaking at a really good time. And Jimmy G has shown that he can make that last drive, that game-winning drive when you need it. He had a couple interceptions yesterday, but when you need him most, he comes out and he gets the game-winning drive for the boys. So for the boys, Frick, I feel like a frat.
Yeah.
I take that back. For the team, for the 49ers, we're going back to professional here and not frat status. So yeah, I like what they have there on offense, and with George Kittle back in the game, holy crap,
good.
He's so good, and I hate it. He's so wild, and it just opens up every other receiving threat on there. So you got Deebo Samuel, who's been getting more and more action. Emmanuel Sanders has been an amazing pickup. So I do think that spells bad for you guys, but because your strength is your offense, it's gonna be a fight. I don't think that there's any question. I really hope for the 49ers' sake that D Ford can come back, and we can see this defense get relatively healthy for a playoff push. They really need that bye, so they're going to be playing guns blazing.
So is Seattle's. Any thoughts on the Niners, Zach?
You guys hit it right on the
cool.
I don't need to add anything.
Jameis Winston playing for historic records will tie up the Saturday games. The Texans clinched their division with the win over the Bucs. Winston aiming for that 30 touchdown, 30 interception season. Obviously, he's at 31 touchdowns, 28 picks. So we hope he breaks 30 picks and make a little history and earn that contract. I know if you guys listen to episode 42, we were talking about where he'd land. I still think the Bucs end up giving him a short-term deal. And it was said before that game that he threw 4 picks in yesterday that they were looking to bring him back. I still think that's the case, whether he throws 5 picks next week or none. It's kind of hard to see what they really have. They're going to finish with looks like a 7-9 or 8-8 record. And That's going to get them about the 16th or 17th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a spot where they're going to take a quarterback. We talked about this last week, and we'll probably talk about it a lot more in the offseason, but that's just tying up the Saturday games. Sunday morning, guys, which game do you want to tackle first? Let's go with the Browns-Ravens. Zach, we could put the nail in the coffin on the Browns' playoff hopes. We talked about all the great scenarios that would take place if we got to see them make the playoffs, and all of them happened. The Steelers lost. The Colts won. And the Titans lost.
That's it.
But the Browns didn't win.
I think that's just
You're playing a good team, mind you. Very good team.
We blew them out early in the season.
Yeah.
Fourth weekend. And there's no excuse with the hype that we came in with this year. It's just the story of being part of the Browns organization. Letdown after letdown after letdown. It's going to continue happening until we make the right management decisions there.
Nice play by the Cardinals.
Yeah,
really nice play.
Too.
Yeah. Until we get the right management in there, or somebody develops into the John Dorsey management wise, I like him. I like what he's brought in. Management on the sidelines is what I'm kind of more getting at. And that's having a rookie coach who has only been 8 games of a coordinator before this, and then getting jolted in as a head coach of a whole football team of the youngest roster in the NFL.
It sounded like such a good idea at the time, but when you look at it in hindsight, it's like, God damn, that's a lot for a guy.
Oh, he can relate to the players.
Yeah.
He can't manage a game worth shit.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And there's been good games. There's been a lot more bad than there has been good, which is the problem for the expectation that was there. There's a lot of good young pieces with the Browns. We say that year in and year out, though. I'm just getting tired of giving the excuses now. It's like, we have the roster. We need the team or the coach, sorry. And I hate saying this because it's his first year. I don't want to be like, oh, we need to fire Freddie. But at this time, we need, if he was our bridge guy, thank you, Freddie. Let's cut ties and move on to a Ron Rivera
or
Mike McCarthy,
yeah.
who has an in. Okay, here's the thing. Who does everyone compare Baker Mayfield to?
Brett Favre.
Who has McCarthy coached his first 2 years in the league? Brett Favre. And McCarthy's been diligent this offseason to prepare for another head coaching job. And he has the in with John Dorsey.
As if Hundley just jukes out our defense for a first down. Sorry, Zach.
Oh.
Sorry, as you were.
We need better management on the sideline for the Browns. It was sad to see them lose and not move forward with the bias that I was coming in, where I was all excited, oh, it's going to happen. Everything happened. We're done.
Yeah.
So on to next season. Yeah.
That's, I think, just if it could be summed up in about 2 minutes of game time, your season, it was the Browns had a 6-0 lead today against the Ravens with under 2 minutes to go in the game. And they gave the ball to the Ravens, who scored 2 quick touchdowns to end the half. It was 6-0. And with under 2 minutes left in the half, the Browns give up 2 quick scores, and all of a sudden they're down 14-6. That just really sums up how the play calling and everything, the game management has really fallen off, and it's the players executing, but at the same time, it's the coach who's calling the plays. He didn't want to relinquish calling the plays. He wants to be that person doing it. But I mean, there's opportunities to maybe just run out the clock or call safer plays where you can keep the ball, keep the clock rolling and stuff like that. But it's just to no avail. Game mismanagement after, or whatever you want to call it, is just mishap after mishap.
Yeah.
And it's just, when do you call it quits? And it's not even just that they played the best team in the league. This is a theme that we've seen across every single game.
And I don't want to sit here and say Freddie's it's his first head coaching gig. There's a lot of expectation on the start, and you come in and you need to be ready to be a head coach in the NFL. You need to be prepared. And he did not have, he was a positional coach for how many years?
Yeah.
And he looked great as an offensive coordinator. He brought the best out of Baker, and maybe we should have slowed that role down a bit. Have a different hire, but keep Freddie as the offensive coordinator and let him grow there. We threw him right into the fire. When we were hiring him, before he was being interviewed for that head coaching position, I never actually thought of it as a real hire. I was like, cool, we're giving him that confidence to feel that way, but keep him as an OC, man.
Yeah.
Like work with him a bit, let him grow, and then go from there. But I mean, here we are today, and I can't really mention much.
Now they're done like dinner.
Let's shift gears to the Titans Saints. Titans still alive in the playoffs despite taking the loss today. They fought really hard with the Saints. I mean, that's to show that they can compete with a number one seed or number one contender in the NFC. I think says a lot about that team. However, they don't know if they need help to make the playoffs. If they win, they're in next week, I believe.
Yep.
Wait. The Steelers
have the
which we tried to break down that tiebreaker. We don't know how that's going to work. So the Titans need to win, and essentially the Steelers need to lose. The Steelers are playing the Ravens, who have nothing to play for. I'm not sure if Lamar Jackson and that offense and the key pieces like Ingram will see the field at all. If they'll just see a half, but the Steelers not helping their chances with the loss against the Jets today. Saints helping their cause for the number one seed still fighting with San Francisco, Green Bay, and Seattle. Well, maybe no longer Seattle as they're down 27-13 now. Wilson's running. I don't know why. 4 minutes left. Stick a fork in us. Move on to next week. Any thoughts on the Saints and Titans, guys? I don't really have much to add here. The Titans can still make the playoffs, and I'd like to see them in the playoffs over the Steelers. The Raiders are still alive. I think they're going to beat the Chargers by the looks of it. Looks like they're up by quite a bit. 2 scores last I checked. But yeah, I really hope the Titans do make it. They've had a really cool season. I'd hate to see them not make it, and I'd absolutely fucking hate it to see the Steelers make it. But
who benched Duck Hodges today?
Duck,
and then Mason Rudolph got injured, and Duck came back in.
There's a Duck pun in there somewhere, but I can't think of it right now. I'm too mad about this. Titans though still hope they get in. They play the Texans next week, who look locked into that number 4 seed. I'm not sure again if they'll have much to play for, and maybe the Titans roll over them. We don't know. What are your guys' thoughts out of the remaining teams in the hunt for the AFC? The Steelers, Titans, Raiders for the time being. Oh, good. We fumbled.
Russell Wilson just fumbled the ball and
lost like 15 yards.
Yeah,
we got it back. Who do you guys hope to see out of those 3 teams? We'll start with you, Zach. Out of those 3, who do you hope to get
out
that
of Titans, Steelers, and Raiders?
Yeah,
exactly what you said first. Titans, they have the more complete team, less injuries. Tannehill's playing at a way higher level than any of the other quarterbacks there. That defense can cause harm, and when Derrick Henry's healthy, that offense can do whatever they want. And Tannehill's hitting deep. That is a run and gun team. We'll run the ball. Derrick Henry's not going to be stopped, and then I'm going to do some play action and hit him deep. And man, it would be a shame to see the Steelers in there because they're going to get their ass kicked. Just with the personnel, it just doesn't work.
Offensively, they're banged up. Like James Connors was out this game. Or got knocked out of this game. Duck Hodges got benched because of his poor play. With you guys, I think the Titans would be fantastic to see because they are a team that, though they kind of lurk in the shadows, they're a team that can do some damage. They can beat a Kansas City.
They beat the Chiefs.
Exactly. Yeah. And they can really turn on. So they would be the most interesting team. Now, one thing I kind of wanted to touch on was it sucks that they are such a team that's been just kind of looked over because they're just always like 9-7. They're always there, but
not quite really fully there. Yeah,
they don't really get talked about much. AJ Brown has quietly had one of the better rookie seasons at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Scary Terry McLaurin has probably had the best rookie season as a wide receiver. That's we're talking about this while DK Metcalf's on, but
Scary Terry fell off so bad though.
But with what he was dealing with, like they had such dysfunction. Like he put up pretty good numbers, and even with how he fell off, his stat line throughout the year is still really well for a receiver.
I like DK's consistency though.
Yeah,
I love DK's consistency. But anyways,
when you got Russell Wilson thrown to you, it's a little different.
Still though, but that made him the
Lockett's down. Speaking of DK, might need more of that.
AJ Brown had a sick touchdown today on an end around or was it a reverse? Yeah. And he made some. Oh yeah, he's electric, and he was one of the top receivers in this class. So it's exciting to see that he's living up to the hype. But yeah, that's all I got to say on the Titans.
That's it for the big morning meaningful games, correct?
I think so.
Am I missing something? Try to kill some time here.
Sing a song. Jacksonville, Atlanta.
Oh, right. Yeah, really big Jacksonville game. Who had, by the way, that they rolled out the worst uniform combo I've ever seen. They're black helmets, white jersey, teal pants. I'm a uniform aficionado, and I can tell you that was not it. that was not it. That's it for the morning games.
Yeah, and we got an update too. The Cowboys fall to the Eagles.
No way!
17-9.
Wow. Well, shout out to Tristan and Ian of the amateur agency, man. We know they're just loving it right now.
Yeah.
I don't believe that solidifies it for the Eagles, though. They still have to win next week.
Yeah, if the Cowboys win next week, they win.
If the Cowboys win at all, or if the Cowboys win and the Eagles lose.
I'm pretty sure if they win, because they had beat the
Who's
Eagles
sorry?
already. The Cowboys hold a tiebreaker that if they win next week, they take it. I think.
If Eagles win out, that's always been the thing. The Eagles all have it in their destiny. If
Really?
they win out, they are in.
The more you know.
So the Eagles still need to win next week
They
against
have to win,
against the
yes.
Giants. It'll be
Yes.
Giants won't be anything to play for than just spoiler, but
Right.
Eagles certainly helping their cause.
Oh,
and,
with the win after being
perfect.
They just
Yeah.
need to win.
Wow.
So we didn't really get to watch a lot of that game. We've had the Seahawks game on. The Cowboys game was on the laptop here. All I can say is I love to see it. Down go the Cowboys. Jason Garrett is probably out of a job by the end of the season. I think they need to start the new decade with new leadership, and we'll probably get into who the candidates would be in this off season. Going into playoffs, we want to talk about the playoff teams. Urban Meyer, Brian Schottenheimer.
Man, I had the Cowboys winning this game. I'm embarrassed.
Wow.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
Just got a casual 4th and 22 coming up here
for Seattle. So we're going to tune into this live. Well, you won't be tuning in. We're watching it, and we'll let you know. Russell Wilson drops back in the pocket, clean pocket, steps up, rolls out right, looks, throws a deep bomb to Lockett, who dropped it. It was out of bounds. Tough throw, tough loss. Hate to see it. On to San Francisco next week. Hopefully Clowney's back. Hopefully Diggs is back. Hopefully Shaquille Griffin's back. Anyone else I'm missing? Hopefully Ayupati's back. Hopefully Carson's back.
Did you say Dwayne Brown?
Hopefully Dwayne Brown's back, our starting left tackle. So Quandre Diggs mentioned him. So yeah, hopefully those guys are back. What other afternoon games? I guess the other big one was the Seattle Cardinals game. So the Seahawks fall back to the 5th seed here. It looks like it goes San Francisco, New Orleans, Green Bay, Eagles, Seahawks, Vikings, and now the Cowboys in the hunt outside looking in. Guys, should we move into contenders and pretenders? So looking at that NFC playoff picture, aside from the 2 NFC East teams, who's the biggest pretender out in the picture right now? And you know what? Don't be afraid to hurt my feelings.
I'm not going to hurt your feelings with this one. The Green Bay Packers, hands down, are the biggest pretenders for me. They have been if you can be an inconsistent, 11-3 team?
Yeah.
They have been one of the most inconsistent 11-3 teams. And whether their defense can stop anybody, that remains to be seen, because some days they can, some days they can't, and they can't stop the run. Aaron Rodgers just isn't the same Aaron Rodgers that we've seen before.
I feel like Rodgers is living off his reputation. That's what kind of fans see. So they see, okay, Rodgers can get dangerous in the playoffs, and he could. But if we're just using this season as evidence, I'm trusting Russell Wilson and the Seahawks more than I'm trusting the Green Bay Packers, and that's why the Packers are probably my biggest pretenders in the NFC playoff picture. Zach, what say you?
I would take Minnesota over Green Bay as pretenders to win the Super Bowl. Right. I actually would still put my hands in Aaron Rodgers' hands over Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Especially with a beat up backfield with their running backs with Minnesota right now. Was Thielen back this week?
I'm not sure. They play tomorrow night. So we won't know until the inactive report comes out.
Like, the defense is always consistent with the Vikings. I understand that and I like that. But I just trust the healthy Green Bay Packers offense a little bit more than I would Kirk Cousins in a beat up backfield there in playoff. Like, I've seen Aaron Rodgers do some special things. I know, like you just said, living off his reputation, but as much as you guys say he's fallen off, he's still having an amazing year playing in a new system with a young head coach, and they're still 11-3, and they need their props there as well. Yeah. They've played some close games against some shitty teams, but some better ones too, and still won. So
same story with Seattle.
Right. So but there could be something said for Seattle too. Here, but I don't want to hurt your feelings.
No, it's okay. I'm still just going through it. I'm not too confident, but injuries have played a big part, and I think if they can somehow get by the Niners next week and get that bye week, I'll feel so much more confident than if they have to fly to Philadelphia across the country, mind you. Like, that takes a toll. Play a game, go back to Seattle, and then have to go down to San Francisco or go down to New Orleans. Like, oh my goodness, man, that's not ideal.
You go to Philadelphia, fly back, and then go to New Orleans.
Could
you imagine?
The travel. Yeah. And people like to think, oh, you're overthinking it, but like it plays a role. And if they end up giving Seattle like a 10 a.m. start their time too, depending on how they schedule the playoff games, which Seattle's been done very well in their 10 a.m. starts this week, and they're 7-1 or this year, and they're 7-1 on the road this year as well. It's still, that stuff all plays a role, and they're a very bruised and battered team. To the AFC guys, obviously there's still some teams in the hunt, some moving pieces, but if I'm looking at the teams in here right now, the biggest pretender for me in the AFC playoffs is the Houston Texans. And I'm going kind of a historical approach on this one. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And when they do make the playoffs, they seem to be the biggest choke artists. I don't know how many games I've reluctantly tuned into to watch the Texans with a home playoff game, wildcard weekend, just to see them lose to the Colts, or I think they lost to the Bengals one year. I'm not even sure. And then if they win that, they go to the Foxborough and get their ass kicked based on what I've seen. And this year, the game against the Bucs yesterday shouldn't have been nowhere near as close as it was. You had Jameis throwing 4 picks, and I think he fumbled
There's a fumble
in there too, and they squeaked by that win. They've had some convincing wins, like the win against the Patriots, but they're just
against the Chiefs,
but then losses against teams like the Broncos, close games like against the Buccaneers don't give me a lot of faith in them going forward. And sure, if they end up meeting the Titans or God forbid the Steelers in the first round, I don't give them any confidence going to Baltimore, New England. And you know what? I think I trust the Titans more than I trust the Texans if the Titans were to make it. Obviously, if the Steelers make it biggest pretenders, that's a cheesy pick, but the Texans are my biggest pretenders in the AFC playoffs.
I mean, I could go, I'd even say the Bills have a better shot because their team is built to run the ball and play hard defense. And I prefer that over just always relying on Watson to throw the ball. And he always seems like it's always on his shoulders. He's a good guy to put everything on his shoulders because he's talented enough to do something. But to win 3 consecutive games in the playoffs to make it to the Super Bowl, I don't see that. I would rather take a team that's built around the run, pounding the ball and then stuffing them on defense. It's more consistent, and defense wins championships. But it's just you're totally right, and you picked the one
that's fair.
Everyone I think is going to pick here. The Steelers are the other one if they were to make it. I don't think Tennessee's there to win a Super Bowl yet, but I do see them being more consistent with how that team's made up. They've built through the run. Derrick Henry's arguably the best running back in the league right now, and Tannehill's playing off that run game like the best in the league, literally. So, I mean, unless you have something different.
I was trying to think of something different, but I really can't, because it's between the Buffalo Bills, who I have a lot of faith in right now, and the Texans are really the only other choice that you could make, because like to say the Titans, I mean, they're a wild card team, so it's kind of expected. It's not like they're real contenders. But then you got the Chiefs, who with Patty Mahomes, I don't think you can call them a pretender at all. The Ravens, that would just be a joke and make this podcast a laughing stock.
And the Ravens.
And the Patriots.
The
Patriots, I mean, they just had a big win yesterday offensively, and I was very excited. So, I mean, I got
the Patriots might be the pretenders. No, they're still here, Zach. Remember, we can't forget.
Right. They're still here.
They never left. Yes. We never said they left. We're just hoping they wouldn't get the bye, but they did.
Of course. Somehow they always get it.
Yeah, because it always works out for the Pats.
Yes, that's right. And there's always a big game at the end of the season in Gillette Stadium. They never have to go on the road. They never have to go on the road. And the refs are always like, oh, flag! It's the other team.
I don't want to hear it.
It's just the worst.
But yeah, so I got, as much as I love Deshaun Watson and the Texans, like they even have JJ Watt, who's going to be healthy for the playoffs.
I thought he was done for the year.
I thought so too. So that's exciting. So yeah, I think that they're going to be, it's going to be a great AFC playoff and NFC playoff. I think we got some really good, talented teams.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very exciting. But if I had to just I got to agree with you guys.
Yeah. Well, we will be back. Anything else you guys want to cover before we kind of put a bookend on this one?
I think that's good.
Yeah. Next week, depending on when we record, I may not be here. I'll be in Whitefish skiing. But lots to cover, obviously, with the final slate of Week 17 games playing. There's lots of seeding to be determined. It's kind of weird this late in the year. The number 1 seed and the NFC hasn't been determined yet, which, usually that's figured out by this point. But what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Seahawks 49ers primetime Sunday night football. I'll be finding a way to watch that. Bringing my Wilson jersey to the States. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. Find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. And I hope to connect with everyone soon. I'm going to go cry for a little bit before I drive home to Calgary. Seahawks game just concluded. They lost 27-13. Doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. If they beat the 49ers, they get I don't know if they get a bye, but they'll get home playoff game for sure. Zach, where can the fine folks find you?
Well, you can find me living the dream on Instagram at Zach Foth, or on Instagram. No, Zach Foth _ on Instagram, and on Twitter at Zach Foth. Ozzy?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Austin Paul _ That's Austin with a Y,
not an I. And we hope you guys enjoyed this YouTube format. We're just trying a whole bunch of different things. Apologies if our Skype audio last week wasn't up to par. We're just trying a bunch of different things. You know, we're still only 40 episodes in this thing. We're not even a year old as the amateur agency yet. So we like to kind of do some trial and error. Obviously, your feedback as always is appreciated. DM us individually. DM our actual social medias that we didn't plug at the amateur agency. We were always responsive on there. All 6 of us, including the guys at B2B, have access to those accounts. So we're always looking for feedback, ways we can improve. If you guys have any suggestions on how to, any different sources, like instead of Zencaster, no offense, Zencaster, let us know. We're always trying to find something new. So good night. Godspeed. Yeah, I'm sure I want to end my stream. There we go.